Whoa.
Is this something?
Yeah, it is something. Wow. This is a good selling point angle right here.
Yeah, I thought this would be the grand finale for you.
Did you, or have you rather, heard stories over the years?
About Bigfoot?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was growing up around here, some folks thought that just kind of beyond the ridge line.
Right.
That, well, seasonally, mind you.
Right.
Right from the beginning, this piece really captured that majesty, but also the absolute mystery of the land, and that constant balance of both the beauty of nature, but also that fearful wildness of nature that man, as much as they try to, cannot tame. So I thought that was a really brilliant theme that pervaded through the piece. I also thought the acting was so grounded and so authentic and immediately drew me in and made me buy into the mythology around Bigfoot as well. The pacing worked brilliantly, escalating at a very realistic pace. And I loved the intertwining of all the different vested interests in finding Bigfoot, from the scientific community to fame seekers to those just driven by the mystery. And soon I was one of those people as well. So I thought this was really professionally done, great cinematography, and yeah, that authenticity I think really helped sell it, where it felt like a more of a documentary.
I think the way that it was shot was really fun. It had almost like a Blair Witch aspect to it, and you build tension by. This piece does a great job of building tension by acknowledging that the monster that they're after, like the main villain of this story, is Bigfoot, and then you build tension that way. It reminded me of something I heard recently from Jordan Peele about how the most terrifying horror movies are when you know what the villain is, and then you just wait to see what's going to happen and when it'll show up and how it strikes next. And that's essentially what this piece did. It's hard to make a horror movie on a budget enjoyable, but this piece does that. I think stylistically it worked in your favor, not showing the monster and having this like hand cam, shaky cam, drone type style in the dialogue is really punchy and helps move the piece along, and it made it really fun to watch.
I really enjoyed the dialogue in this, and the characters felt really realistic and real, something you would hear every day. So they did a really great job with that. I thought the camera work reminded me of something out of a documentary. You're really in the weeds with these characters with all of these drone shots and shaky cam. Especially for a movie like this, it works great. You feel like you're with them hunting Bigfoot. That high concept, that Bigfoot concept, on a low budget is really hard to do, but I think they did an amazing job with that. I love their choice to keep the big attacks off screen, so it's in your head and it can be gruesome and gory as much as you want. I think it also adds to the suspense to never see that monster, especially in monster movies. That works really well. Add a little bit of that horror aspect in your mind. I really enjoyed the slow buildup of tension and the pacing in this movie. It's not very long, but it never feels too rushed. You feel like you're slowly building up with that suspense until that payoff at the end, which works very well as well. So I thought this was a great movie.
I love the use of the word Sasquatchy, and I think this film is quite Sasquatchy as well, with an awesome soundtrack, amazing shots in the woods, and very talented performers. I really enjoyed the whole background story about the sightings of the Bigfoot and the testimonials and the cover-up conspiracies. It was just engaging from beginning to end, and it was quite entertaining, and I love that they have this clever comedic touch and it was terrifying at some parts, and specifically what you imagine is out there, and the descriptions of the sightings and the creature living out there and the possibility of it. It's just very clever.
I think a film about Bigfoot is something that's very difficult to do. It's a pretty big undertaking, and there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it, a lot of them potentially having very mixed results. So I think that the filmmakers did a good job of balancing this film here. It takes itself seriously when it has to, when it should, but it never devolves into self-seriousness that makes the film unenjoyable. It knows the subject matter is a little hokey, a little silly, but it knows how to work with that, and it knows when to keep things light and when things should be more serious and when they should be more intense, which is something that I really appreciated and something that I think is coming across quite well. I really enjoyed the pacing of the film. It is quite short, but it moves nicely. The plot is constantly evolving. It never feels stagnant. The characters never really feel stagnant either. And going off of that, I think all of the actors portraying them do a fine job here. I thought the performances all around were quite good. And I would say the same for the cinematography. The movie looks pretty good as well, especially with the choice of location and how they choose to work within that and capture that. I really like the house in the middle of the woods, the shots inside, outside. It gives this nice kind of isolated feeling that I think works very well for the film. And then, of course, when they're actually in the woods, there's that heightened sense of danger.
Really skirting the line between documentary and narrative tonally, and I really like that. For this type of story, I think that really was like a strong choice. Also, um, we don't get that many Bigfoot movies. And like not anymore, at least not nowadays. And so this was refreshing subject matter and refreshing like story area. So that was cool. And then also I really like that this. I like the angle that this took on it, as far as like the whole point of it being um like the deeper thing about like the debate between like science and like why are you really hunting this thing, and like is it like the moral and ethics of all of that, as far as like treat and like almost like a stand-in for like other rare more like real species, um and like that the Bigfoot being like a context and a setting for having that deeper debate about like the ethics of how we treat and study animals and things like that was I think was a strong angle, was a good angle that's different from what I would expect a Bigfoot movie to be. And so I really like that choice. And that was almost really kind of more satisfying than even ever like than if it had been just like a movie about hunting Bigfoot and then they find Bigfoot or they don't find Bigfoot. So um, I like the choice to use the Bigfoot setting as a vehicle for a deeper conversation.
It's so well known that taking that concept and something that everybody can kind of relate to, and who doesn't love, getting the proof and finding these things, and even just the idea of it, I think is really, people can like romanticize that idea of like finding the proof after all these years and taking that and kind of running with it. For a story or for a movie, I thought was really, really smart, and lent itself really well to their story in general. And then you just had a lot of really fun, interesting characters and interactions, and dynamics kind of going into play, which I thought worked really, really well. I thought the whole thing was well done.
Very, very interesting. It was a nice little Sasquatch Bigfoot story. You know, and also just the fact that like you didn't really see any of the Sasquatch until the very last shot is very intriguing, because it's the unseen is can be very unnerving at times. And it's a fun little story. I really like the locations. The locations were beautiful, and even said in the movie themselves. But I think that it was a very beautiful looking like locations and everything.